I can get into that shitty mind frame and bad self-talk where I can talk myself out of doing anything, talking to anybody, reaching out to anybody, And so I've been there. I've been there where I've isolated and, not wanted to talk to anybody or live any sort of program or any sort of happiness recovery.
So it was just a bit with Shan Burness and Ryan Bathgate, of course. Shan's back on for her third appearance now on the podcast. She's just an absolute wonderful guest with some amazing things to say. Hey, listen, the title sponsor for today's episode is AARC. That's the Alberta Adolescent Recovery Center. We just recently did another episode with them last week. Yeah, just an amazing program that they're doing there. They have a peer-to-peer support model that is absolutely next level. I want to say groundbreaking, but it's been around for 34 years. We just haven't been talking about it, and maybe we should. So check them out. You can learn more about them at arc.ab.ca. And here's the show. Hello, everybody. Watchers, listeners, supporters of all kinds. Welcome to another episode of the Ashes to Awesome podcast. I'm your host, Chuck LaFlange, checking in from Krabi, Thailand. Halfway around the world is my good friend and co-host, Ryan Bathgate in Mission, BC. How you doing today, Ryan?
I'm full. I'm pretty good. Yeah, life's good. Yeah, that's where I am.
Okay.
Life is good. Fulfillment is happening.
Just like you're not trying to convince me. You're like, this is...
No, I hadn't thought about it all day, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, that's a good thing. That might just be a good thing. The fact that you don't, right? Typically, that means that you're not, in the shit anyway. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't spend a lot of time in there, to be honest with you.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. And of course, we have a returning guest now for fourth episode of Ashes to Awesome. I think second with Ryan, but fourth episode, I think, that you've been on with us now is Shannon Burness in Okotoks, Alberta. How are you doing today, Shannon?
I am doing really good. Thanks for having me back. I think it's 3 that are official and one that we decided not to somewhere.
Run with.
Cutting room. Didn't make the cutting room floor.
Yeah. Or ended up on the cutting room floor.
But yes, I am doing really good.
Sorry, Shannon. Ryan, if we're going to get into metaphors this early on, let's get them right. Okay.
Phillips. Like a Phillips. Just like a Phillips.
Have you seen that episode yet, Shan? With the Phillips screwdriver?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I did.
Yeah. That has come up in comments, in personal conversations now with people. That one definitely did not end up on the cutting room floor. So
the things that stick, though. I mean, come on.
Who would have thought, right? Who would have thought that was going to make a reel and quite a successful reel by our standards? So there you go.
All right, that's humility.
Anyway, there's a few things I guess for people that are new to the platform, and we have so many. Ryan, I'll touch on it. Ryan, of course, recently had a relapse. We're going months now. What's 6? It's got to be about 5 months now, something like that.
137 days.
137 days. 4 months to change. Yeah, I had to math it for a second. Yeah. Four and a half months-ish, right? Yeah. Okay, so, and of course, as since embraced the 12-step program again or fellowship again. Both. Okay, yeah, and is definitely finding his way. And it's just, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I thought if I let you do it, that's going to be half the episode. So that's why I did that. Shannon, of course, is in long-term recovery at how many years? I want to say 8, but there's a lot of people's.
On the 21st, it's going to be 9 years.
9 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Congratulations. Good for you.
Yeah.
We
do a lot of clapping in the rooms,
Yes. Golf clap.
Yeah, exactly.
No, good for you. And
thank you.
And I mean, you made reference to it already, Shannon. We did an episode a while back where we didn't end up airing it because none of us thought it was going to be helpful to anything. Ryan had expressed some resentments towards 12-step program, and I don't even know that resentments encapsulates it all, because there's some intellectual stuff there too that I would think you still probably disagree with in some ways, but that's not my place to say. But there was a resentment that certainly caught our attention. Is that a fair way to say that? Right.
Yeah. Resentments. And what I got was, there was almost like a wall of some sort up and deflection of some sort back towards what has worked for me type thing.
I just want to interrupt real quick for a
which
PSA.
definitely-
Today's PSA is brought to you by the Yatra Trauma Center in Krabi, Thailand. They are a trauma center. They do it very, very, very well. And they like to say where addiction is a smoke, trauma is fire. You can learn more if you check out our website, a2apodcast.com/trauma. And here's your PSA with Jamie Tall.
Hey, my name's Jamie Tall, and I want to talk to you about something I never leave home without. This right here is nasal naloxone. There are a couple different name brands of it. This one is called Revive. It is an emergency treatment for opioid overdose. You might think, well, I don't use opioids. Well, you never know whose life you could save. Someone who loves and someone who is loved. So don't leave home without it.
Yeah, yes, which definitely, and of course, Shannon, you were not comfortable with the way things had played out. And again, we're not going to get too much into that. Ryan, does that accurately describe it for me? I'll give you an opportunity now to just kind of correct or say your thing without taking a path yet.
Who, me?
Yes.
You, yeah.
To be honest with you, like, there is, I have a different perspective, but there are some things that I still see,
Yeah, of course you do, right?
The reality, though, is that I'm not anchoring into anything like that. Like, it's just noise to me. It's become completely irrelevant.
Well, it wasn't serving you.
Well, no, or anybody for that matter. But
yeah. Right.
But like, there's value in everything. So like, I think I needed that period of my life to really understand what the difference is between really distraction and what's primary, and like, the simplicity of it all is really takes place in the form of a humility approach. And what was lacking in that perspective completely was any sense of humility. And so
I think we can agree. Yeah, absolutely.
And when we remove humility, we invite ego, and ego needs to protect, and it does that so naturally through the social tapestry of men, through anger, or I guess metaphorically slapping it out of the way, or you know what I mean? Like it's just like, because it threatens the existence of this organism within ourselves that is, the addictive cycle, and it's like backing a dog into a corner. Like, it will do whatever it can to make sure it's relevant within my own existence while it has power.
Absolutely.
Fortunately, through I don't know if you guys read the Daily Reflections today, but it says, in everybody's case, pain is our admission into serenity, and so that's what happened. Like, pain became more important than the fear of change, and it's a really awful place to be. That pain overcomes fear, but for me, in my many different versions of this story, that's been always the case. Is that my arrogance creates a disconnect so vast that the only outcome is loneliness, which ultimately requires a coping mechanism or coping strategy. And that strategy is very reliable because it works every time. I drink that thing and I change the way I feel. You know what I mean? And so, but and it became more important to be optically okay. And it was really easy to deflect that by some very edgy and controversial opinions.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's a dangling
Makes sense to me.
piece.
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
Makes total sense. Yeah.
So then I wanted to, this is a curious thing, and Shannon, I'm going to go back to you with this because it's something that I've experienced so much since Ryan and I got back to work together here, and things have gotten back on track, and I'm beyond thankful that happened.
Yeah.
Beyond. But this change, this new Ryan, and I don't even know that it's a renaissance Ryan. Maybe we're going to call it that, Ryan, and to use some of your own language, right? Like this kind of,
it's a release from captivity.
Okay. A couple episodes ago, he was encouraging me to do 12-step work. All right, and I'm sure you got that, right? And I was like, holy shit, man! And I'll be honest, he's certainly inspired me to want to do that more. So for someone like yourself, after that experience, and I want to stop referencing that experience because it serves nobody.
Yeah.
So a good way to move
it leaves
out
me
of
with
that.
a gross feeling. that
Yeah,
experience.
yeah, right, yeah.
Well, I
So
think
as a way to segue out of that now, when you're watching Ryan and I talk in these episodes, what's going through your head? Right.
Just absolute happiness for Ryan. Like as I was listening and just kind of watching and listening to, like he said, just, the further he's going away from ego and reconnecting with people, the more authentic he's becoming. And I just was really happy to hear him embrace that side of recovery. And recovery is not the same for everybody, but there's certain models that have proven to work better than others.
Unless you're the one in a million, like me.
Well,
like Ryan has been,
my mom always did tell me I was pretty special. So
Yeah. My mom did too. That's where I got that from.
Yeah, right, yeah. Absolutely.
But no, I just and I felt it so much that.
So let's just dispel with that shit right now, right? So,
big boned.
See, you see,
I'm a mom. I know these things.
Yeah, right.
I felt so compelled that I wanted to reach out to Ryan and just say, I wanted to just discuss where you're at and how your whole. I don't know. It was just a feeling that I got that I was just happy that he had kind of come out of whatever it was, because recovery is not linear. It's up and down and up and down, and it's happened to me, where
it's three-dimensional. I like
exactly. And I can get into that shitty mind frame and bad self-talk where I can talk myself out of doing anything, talking to anybody, reaching out to anybody, and so I've been there where I've isolated and, not wanted to talk to anybody or live any sort of program or any sort of happiness recovery, right? So I just wanted to reach out and tell him that I was really happy for him and how just the change I can see in him,
No kidding, right? No kidding.
Yeah.
Ryan, what you got? You got something on your mind?
Yeah, he's thinking.
Believe it or not, I don't. I was, I was absorbing that, and I'm thinking, I can't get, okay, what came to mind was the original term of addiction, okay, and I know. Addiction was meant as a term of endearment when it first showed up in the English language. Okay. So when you were courting a woman, you would be addicted to that woman. Okay. You know what I mean? Okay. And then the slave trade came in the United States, and the meaning shifted into ownership. So when you were sold at an auction as a slave, you were now addicted to that plantation. And then that's how it developed into, as that campaign came out in the early 1900s, where it was part of the suffragettes as well, but it started to go into being the best slave to Lodblum, I think was the original target. And and so that's how we know that term today. And that's what it feels like, honestly, to go into, to lose humility, to turn your back on a recovery process, and is really to turn my back on myself. And it's exactly what I did. And it's my biggest regret in that period. Because that's ultimately, if I would have, my life would look a lot different right now. However, I would be lacking a lot of wisdom around what I gained from that experience. So, which is proving to be quite helpful in this little 4.5 month stretch. And honestly, I'm really grateful that I belong in recovery, because to come back in was so much easier. And in all of the things that have been, the consequences I'm living in, if I didn't have this other experience, there's no way that I stay sober. The amount of stress and the amount of disruption of life that I've been going through, self-imposed, no victim status here. It was there's no way that I would have been able to do that in my first crack at recovery. And right now, that is a life-defining thing because of the fentanyl out there. I mean, you know what I mean? So when you have a medical system against you, and I don't mean against me, it's against all of us. The thing about, our systems are built mechanically, And our human beings are not mechanical beings; we're organic, and so we work in cyclical ways. Yet the systems work in right angles and sprockets, and it's you need to fit the mold, right? And so that's why the medical system doesn't work, the education system doesn't work, the legal system doesn't work. There's all these holes, and the reality is it's never going to be fixed. 20 years ago, there was holes in all those systems, and 40 years ago, there was holes in those systems. You know what I mean? So, I guess where I'm going with this is you kind of learn how to remain human within these systems because of learning about things like grace and patience and tolerance and understanding. And that's what it takes to be able to navigate those systems. And if I didn't have this experience from my previous long-term recovery journeys, then I probably wouldn't be faring too well, I guess is what I'm getting at. And really, the real difference this time is I'm not fighting with science.
You've laid down the sword.
Yeah, and it's fuck it, right? I look at it this whole I always had a problem with God. That word is go fuck yourself. You know what I mean? I'm not buying your encyclopedias.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And to me it was very snake oil salesman, and then I just put my daughter up against that, and I'm I don't give a shit what I got to believe in if it's going to make her life better. You know what I mean? So all of that shit disappeared while I'm sitting in a jail cell because the ultimate act of humility was gifted to me. And that is, I'm an alcoholic. I have a substance use disorder. And that's that. I'm going to have that rest of my life. And there's no book I can read or person that I can walk through a therapy process that's going to fix that or change that.
And you're not unique. I mean, we're all the same, right?
I am so fucking not unique.
I know. I found, and when I first started going, I found two things. I found people that were truly happy, that were actually laughing.
Suspiciously, though,
Right. Yeah.
I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and
5 years without a drink, okay. Sure. As if you're not
I know, right? Yeah, exactly. And that we all spoke the same language. We all kind of, no matter what it was, our brains were all the same, and our experiences were maybe tweaked a little bit, but we all had the same thing that we cannot drink.
It's that same emotion pool that we share. You stick around long enough and you hear your story. That's how unique we all are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Exactly. And I think that's, I had talked previously about a support system and, how important that is, and that creates that instantly. You can go anywhere online, you can go any town, and you can find that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have the personal support system where it's friends, family, that sort of thing. But, there's certain times when that's needed as well.
I got a question for you, Shannon.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, what do you think the role of sponsorship is?
Well, that's an interesting question because there's two things that I think. I think that it has evolved sort of from the old school, tell it like it is, that sort of thing. But the main thing is accountability and guidance through learning. To me, the 12 steps is a life program. It teaches you how to live. I didn't have any of those rules previously. Look at what you did today. Do you need to say sorry to anybody? Just little things like that just had never even entered my head before. It was just full throttle, straight ahead, and don't look at the wake, right?
Yeah, self-serve.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think that sponsorship does that, and it guides you through that, and it imparts knowledge that maybe you wouldn't think of because they're supposed to be kind of impartial to your personal struggles and stuff like that. Okay, what's your thoughts?
I came up in a really old school way.
Where they just tell you like it is, and yeah.
And so I was taught, I used to go to this little back room in my home group in Toronto, and it was full of guys that got sober in the 40s and 50s. And so they would say that sponsorship is sharing your experience as it relates to the 12 Steps to Alcoholics Anonymous and the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and that's it.
Yeah.
And what that means is no seeing any men for 1 year is not in the book. Giving financial advice is not in the book, and that's the way I was taught. So it was you don't get personal. You talk about your experience as it relates to, and then help relate other people's experience to the 12 steps in the Big Book.
Yeah, because the steps are like you're supposed to work through them, and there's like that's what I mean by guidance is, you know, when you're doing this step, this is kind of what you do. You write this down, you look at this, you process this, and we'll talk next week.
Yes. Ultimately, I believe personally, it's about safety. It's about creating safe connections to be able to be vulnerable and really journey into a place that most of us have never gone before, which is a vulnerable, organic emotion center, you know, and
that's true.
And so I don't sponsor anymore because of my profession, but when I did, it enhanced my life. And so that 12 step element becomes that's where the rubber hits the road. When you start to talk about your experiences as you learned through your set of steps from your sponsor, then that carries that on and carries it on. Yeah,
well, that's the 12th step.
Yes, but I think it gets a little diluted I guess it's the human nature, I guess, of the presence of power. As William Golding says, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So I've seen some really kind of harebrained things of you can't wear makeup for 6 months and
Yeah, I know. Well, that's a personal interpretation of something. That's not, and that's where problems arise with, and that's why there's the traditions, and that's why they have those little sayings like, take what you need and leave the rest, keep it simple, stupid,
First things first.
We have no opinions on outside matters, just stuff like that where it just always diverts you back to the program.
So I think, you brought something up that is quite telling in your understanding, and that is the importance of traditions. And I think that, I'm kind of picking on things a little bit, and I want to get, what I want to do is I want to get somebody who's experienced with long-term recovery and their opinions on the matter. So I'm not trying to pick anything apart. These are the kind of the things I notice. I've been to other fellowships where it's like the traditions are non-existent, and the way that I came up, it was so important. As soon as you finish the 12 steps, you go into the 12 traditions, and then you start working on that. You know what I mean? And I think that, it's the glue. It's what's held it together since 1939. And
well, it's exactly it. It's the
If I can interrupt here, and I do want to, Mike Miller and I actually did an episode. Episode 224. So that's what I was kind of been a busy here. That episode to make sure that I had it. And I don't know, Shannon, if you caught that one. I don't think you did, Ryan. But
nope.
Maybe. I think so. I think you sent it to me.
He defends the 12-step fundamentals.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I think I listened to that one. Yeah.
And in the most eloquent way possible, he breaks down the entire process, and basically to all of the people that insert their own weirdness into what can, let's be honest, that's what it is, right? Some of the awful shit that you hear, some of the toxic shit that you hear, just some of the really weird stuff, right?
But that's a human element. That's not the program.
Of course it is. And that's what he does, is he breaks that out of it and says, here's what it actually means if you read it word for word, if you take it, the way that it is, and without inserting our own stuff into it, and did an amazing job of it.
Yeah.
224,
right? Yeah,
I think I remember that, and it was really good. Yeah,
it's a must listen to, Ryan. And I don't ask you to listen to. I understand you have a really busy life. This is one of those ones where you've got to go back.
No, you piqued my interest.
Yeah.
I love the traditions. I think they're absolutely essential, and I think that they're something that I would like to see a resurgence or a renaissance of the traditions personally.
Yeah.
But I find in AA it's not lost. It's just social media makes it a little bit gray, and I don't want someone taking a picture of me. I want to ask about something there.
I want to ask about, and here's a conversation that I've had with more than a few 12-steppers, and I'm never really happy with how the answers that I get. So I'm curious. Happy's not right. Satisfied, maybe. The anonymous part. So
and I think south of the border in the U.S., it's much more common for people to jump on somebody for coming out and saying, I'm a member of the 12 step of 12, you know, and the language there is very different too. You'll see somebody more often in the U.S. say, I'm a member of a 12 step fellowship, but that's, you know what I mean? It's a very vague, leave it because respecting the anonymous part. As an outsider, if I can finish my point, because there's a whole question here, Shannon. So as an outsider, the anonymous part to me says respect that about anybody else that's in there. Right? Like never, ever, ever give somebody's name or whatever. It's not if I choose to say that I'm a member of 12 steps, piss off. Right. And I think that that's how I interpret that. But so there's something that I don't understand about the resentment that comes from the community sometimes, you know, directed at people that choose to say that on social media. And Shannon, I'll let you start because you were just about to say something and I cut you off.
Sure. Yeah. So a couple of things, so speaking of the 12 step, which is service, I've started speaking more at like recovery centers, and I go into high schools. There's one high school that I go into and speak. And when we introduce ourselves, we're there to like educate people on the 12 step program. We introduce ourselves and say we're a member and that we're choosing to break our anonymity in order to spread the message and, you know, teach people, plant the seed, whatever. But yes, anonymity is, if I see you in the grocery store and you don't say hi to me, that's fine, because you might be with your husband that doesn't even know, he thinks you go to book club every Monday night or something, you know?
Yeah, of course.
And so there's no questions about, oh, how do you know that person, you know? So, I mean, I've done it before where, you know, you walk right by each other in the grocery store and you just make eye contact and look away right away. And you know, okay, that person doesn't want to say hi to me. Yeah. You know, and so it's to protect those people that want that but don't want to have that label.
Makes perfect sense to me. Right?
Yeah.
Perfect sense to you. Ryan, do you have any, like, in a different interpretation? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, lots. Yeah, I do. First of all, it's no different than the ethics of counseling, where if I see a client, I don't say hi, they can come to me, but I can't go to them. So I just kind of treat it like that. I read a grapevine in 2001, I think. 2000, because I was in Calgary. And it talked about anonymity as its intent. And its intent is for equity. So the reason that the anonymity is a spiritual foundation is because it makes everybody equal. And the example that they gave was that if and this was written a long time ago, if somebody came in and their last name is Rockefeller, they will instantly be treated differently based on their social status. They will not be equal. And so that's why we're not supposed to use last names. And so that me being a first name, I'm just a human being in a room with a substance use disorder, you know, with someone else. So we're all the same. And so it levels the playing field. And then to speak to outside of the rooms, my home group in Toronto was full of actors, and none of them ever wanted, like, they wore baseball caps and pulled down low to meetings, and so they didn't. It was very important. Some of my friends, and they would explain to me that it can be career suicide if someone finds out I have a fentanyl addiction. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to get hired. I'm not going to book another job in the film industry. And you can say all you want about what's the word I'm looking for? It being unfair, but the reality is you just won't get booked. You know what I mean? And so I had done something to learn this. I fucked something up to learn this lesson. And I think I gave my friend a phone number of a fellow member, and he fucking lost it. And then I was like, oh, yeah, totally. I totally understand that. And now as a counselor, I definitely understand that, because it can be really damaging for people. We never know. Like you know, we see the memes all the time. You never know what the other person is going through. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so, and you know, to be honest with you, to be able to uphold that as a member, I feel good about myself. I feel like I'm doing the right thing. And so it also enhances my intrinsic resources and concretizes or galvanizes my membership.
Yeah.
Yet, however, there is a responsible pledge, which means I'll put my hand out for any alcoholic still suffering. And so I mean, it's a fine line, but you know, I do that in meetings, not at the grocery store. You know what I mean? I don't go to the guy who's buying a bottle of booze and be like, "Hey, you need to call me." You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I got a solution for you. Yeah. So you know, it can be tricky, and it's all of these things can be overcomplicated and put into practice in a messed up, based on my perception, a messed up way. But it might not be for them. I don't know. You know what I mean? So like, I can sit here and pick things apart, and it's really easy to do that. But the reality is, I don't know what's happening in people's lives at any given time. And so for me to cast that judgment is the usual me, arrogant and ignorant. Like, you know, but over the years, I can't help but pick up on things that I'm like, hey, you know, and like, what does that do for me? It makes me feel like I know something. And you know what I mean? It's just this, again, this false ego thing. Like, I'm smarter than you. I know more. I know more about. I have. You know, this is my favorite. The guy that comes up to the podium and tries to recite how it works without using the sheet and then fucks it up. It's my favorite. So it's my favorite. It's my favorite thing in the world. Yeah. He's like, "Oh, give me that sheet after all." You know, like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a humbling experience for sure.
Yeah,
I'll tell you something kind of funny that just the other day, yesterday, I think it was. Of course, having a Facebook platform, and you know, you get comments from all sorts of different people, and there's always that guy who makes every meme, every post something about the 12 steps, and you know, it takes the humor out of it. It's like, well, this, and you know, so I sent a message to one of my fellow content creators with a screenshot of this comment and said, "Great, you've been reading the same book for 20 fucking years, right? And now everything you see you have to inject your perceived wisdom because you've reread the same book for 20 years, you know, and you're sucking the fun out of it. So stop it."
I know.
Actually, so that makes me think of this. I was at a meeting many years ago, and this guy came to me and said, I think this guy must have got loaded, but he said, you know, would you go to a doctor that worked out of a textbook from 1939? And I was like, damn, no, I wouldn't. And then it was like altered trajectory. I was like, yeah, fuck the big book. You know, like, just like off and running. One little comment.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. It takes nothing to talk yourself out of something, or like have those resentments where you don't want to go because fucking Joe said something you didn't agree with. So screw him. I'm going to show him by not going to a meeting.
100%. That is what stopped me from going. And I've been open about that since I came back into recovery. And, you know, it was after that I had a relapse and whatever. And it's not why I don't go now. It's just logistics more than anything. But I was looking for resentment. I found a resentment and I didn't have to go. Right. And I think almost anybody who's been through the process can relate to that anyway. You know?
Yeah. And that within itself is a complete lack of humility.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? Like, you know, for right now, the conversation in my head is really simple. I don't have a year of consistent sobriety together, so I go. Doesn't matter what I think. Doesn't matter what I feel. Doesn't matter if I'm tired or I got to get up early. I fucking go. That's it. There's no conversation. I just go. Yeah. You know, like I was sitting on last Saturday. I don't usually go to a meeting on Saturday because I'm playing ball, but I got home early and I'm sitting there and I'm like, fuck, I'm sore. I'm tired. There's a meeting in half an hour. I'm not going. And I'm in my truck and on my way. Because honestly, eventually, I put it up against my little girls, and that nothing stands, nothing holds up. You know what I mean? Like there is no excuse. This is going to make her life better somewhat, whether it's a fucking millimeter or a mile. It doesn't matter. It's going to improve her existence, and I'm here today because of them. I probably wouldn't have made it through that relapse alive if it wasn't for my kids. To be honest with you, because honestly, I was tired. And I was fucking done. And the last thing in the world I wanted to do was have to come back and take another 24-hour chip, and tell everybody what kind of a loser I am. You know what I mean? Like, and obviously it didn't go like that, but my mind told me that's how it was.
Yeah, of course.
Of course it did. Of course it did.
And you know,
I want to ask you about that, Ryan. That moment, that particular moment, because there's a whole process here that we've talked about. I think it's beautiful. But that moment when you're back in that room grabbing that chip, can you tell us how that felt?
You're exposing me. I didn't get a chip.
Oh, okay.
Now
that's not what I meant to do.
Here's why. Yeah. I'm a traditionalist. I believe in the home group. I was taught that to take your chip in anywhere else than a home group is attention seeking. And so you take it in your home group, that's it. You don't make a fuss. I didn't have a home group. I got a home group in week 2. I took my first month chip in my home group and every chip.
Okay, so that moment then. Let's that moment. How's that?
To be honest with you, it starts with a lot of shame. The first thing that goes through my mind is I'd have 26 years if I didn't fucking fuck up the first time. You know what I mean? And then the second thought is if I didn't fuck up a second time, I'd have 15. You know what I mean? And so like right away it goes into this like, you really screwed this up. Like, you know what I mean? And then I got the chip and I got a hug from, they call him the General. I can say that because it's not his name. And I don't even know if that's true. I probably fucked that up. But sorry, General. And
just to make sure we said it twice, General, 3 times. Okay, now we're done. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Candyman. Beetlejuice, yeah. And then it was like I got this little pouch and I put it in the pouch and that's for my girls. And so now I have a little pouch that they're going to get every chip in my first year and my 1-year medallion. And I'm going to give that to them at the end of the first year. And so again, meaning making, you know, and so it shifted in that moment when it became about the girls, because going up there, it was still about me. You know what I mean? When it was shame, it was about me. When it became about them, it didn't fucking matter. You know, and Beautiful. So again, it turned what I thought was important into noise that it actually was. And so much of my life was noise that was masqueraded as first class importance. You know what I mean? And like, and those and the infusion of willingness and humility shifted everything. You know what I mean? And like, dude, I've read a couple books. That doesn't make me fucking special. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what I was thinking. I wasn't. I was doing everything I can to protect an addiction. Yeah. Including being a pompous, arrogant fuck.
Yeah. I mean, cognitive ability is kind of the first thing that's affected, right? That's Dude, that's what addiction's doing, right?
What I've really learned this time, Chuck, is how much it changes me outside of actually consuming. The moments between, I'm a different person. There's a chemical imbalance that happens. And that's the difference. From what I've seen, that's the difference between those with substance use disorder and those without. Because they don't change when they're not drunk. You know what I mean? Like I've got lots of friends that drink and they're normal people and they drink normally. And they don't turn into a liar on Wednesday when they drank on Friday. I do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
that's totally,
You know, post-acute withdrawal would state that it takes up to 18 months to return back to a healthy state of mind in your brain. Now, that's a long, you know, if you got a guy drinking every day for 25 years, it's going to take 18 months. For me, it's like 7 months maybe, but I just went through the most emotional part of that post-acute withdrawal cycle. And it was awesome. You know, it fucking sucked, but it was awesome. You know?
Shannon, did you experience, because your story's a little different than ours, right? Like you were still, your rock bottom was very different than, I shouldn't say very different. Your rock bottom was unique to you, and that's fine.
But situationally,
it was quite high,
emotionally,
yeah. But and so that's why I'm asking the question, Ryan. Is
sorry, spoiler.
If you can go back to that, when you go back to that, is those emotions, those ranges of emotions that happen in early recovery for so many of us, myself included. I was a hot mess when I started this podcast, right? Like I really was. And if you go back and listen to the early episodes,
story time,
yeah, right. Fuck yeah. Was that like that for you?
Yeah, definitely. Like, so I kind of felt when I hit my bottom that I was just I kind of explain it as like void of any spiritualism, feeling, connection, you know, so to come out of that, I had to feel all those things, right? So, I mean, everything that I avoided, everything that I self-medicated for, stuff like that. I just had to feel them. So I remember coming out of it and actually seeing different, like physically seeing different things. Like I tell this story of when I would walk my kids to the rec center. It was about 1.5 blocks from my house, and I'd walk by my friend's house every time. And, my first year of recovery, I was walking by his house, and there was like this beautiful tree with all these, like, I don't know, it was apple blossoms, but they were beautiful and it smelled really nice. And I remember looking at this tree, and I had never seen it before. And I had walked by that for like the last 5 springs, walking my children to the pool or hockey practice, or, I remember driving and seeing like a whole mountain range that I had never seen before, because it was like I was just slowly coming out of myself and looking out, right? So yeah, emotions, yes, I spent a lot of time crying, a lot of time angry, a lot of time, jealous, like every emotion, because really I hadn't identified or used any emotions in a long time previous to that, right? So I just had to. Mm-hmm.
Do you think that the state of your intrinsic resources of self-esteem, self-worth, and self-respect are directly dependent on your ability to regulate emotion?
Well, I would say yes, because if you're not regulating your emotions, for me, when I'm not regulating my emotions, I'm reactive. I'm, do stuff that hurt other people. I do stuff that hurts me. So that doesn't make me feel good. Right. So in order for me to feel good about myself and feel like my authentic self, I have to be regulating my emotions so I can process them and react accordingly. Right.
Okay, I'm going to follow up with another question. Do you think your intrinsic resources are directly dependent on your access to whatever spiritual belief you have?
Well, that's kind of, I would have to say yes, in a way, because I have developed a spiritual belief since being in recovery, and that's when I've started to regulate my emotions more, right?
Yeah.
So previous to that, I almost wore it like a badge of honor when I wasn't regulating my emotions. Do you know what I mean? Like telling people how it is, telling people off, like just that was part of my makeup, right?
Yeah.
And didn't matter who heard it.
We take pride in that. Right?
Yeah,
like
right?
I'm awesome because I'm an asshole.
Right? Exactly, right? And then as I kind of came out of that, like I developed a spiritual relationship. I don't believe in, and I see how the program chases people away with God, because, lots of people are very against that or whatever. But there's a whole chapter to the atheist, which people can read. But agnostic. I created what worked for me, and it's a God of our understanding, and it's a higher power that we believe in, right?
I've come to this thing. 25 fucking years of this, and I finally figured something out with relative to the whole God thing. I think it's a God of my not understanding. That's where I landed. Yeah, I don't know, and I don't fucking need to. I don't care.
Well, you don't have to define him or her, whatever it is, right? Like there's some things just don't have to be defined.
And that's my point. It's like I can't enjoy a magic show. You know what I mean? I gotta figure out what the fuck that guy's doing.
I'm the same with like horror movies. I just like
no. Why are you running into the chainsaws?
Yeah, that's so fake or whatever. Yeah, like sure that happens, So it's the same way. I just don't agree or enjoy it because my logical mind just kicks in.
Right. I think that's why I struggled for so many years about this, is that I needed to... I'm like, first of all, I'm a man, and the perfect being in the universe is not going to be a man. Like, we're idiots. So, come on, let's be honest. So for me to go him...
yeah, not happening, yeah.
No, you know what I mean? So for me, it's very gender fluid.
So fucking true.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my god!
Every time someone says him, I'm like,
I know. I do a little cringe too.
Yeah, we're dumb. Yeah. We're dumb.
Right, by default. By default, we are just ridiculous human beings.
Constantly think with the wrong head. We both know.
I know. And that is like, you know, when you talk about laying down the sword, it's like in all aspects of your life, right? Like if you stop fighting, having to define everything, if you stop fighting, controlling anything, then your life becomes a little bit more serene because you're not on guard 24 hours a day.
Yeah, totally. And like, and like, it's hard work. For me, it was almost exhausting to have to be right.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And in order to be right, I had to understand it enough to make you think I knew what I was talking about. You know, and so like, I just I don't.
I do that all the time. Yeah, I have this sign in my office, and it says something like, "I know you think you thought you knew what I said, but you're not thinking right what I was saying," or something like along those lines, where it's just like,
basically,
and I'm right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm right. You're reading my mind wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
You fucked up.
Yeah, right? And that's like, I don't know. I just find like when you can actually verbalize that and realize how crazy we actually are, then.
Man, I think I need to start saying all my thoughts out loud because I'm like, what an idiot. Like,
right?
It happens in my mind. I'm like, that's such a good idea. Or like.
And as you're saying it, you're like to somebody else, you're like, okay, let's just like.
Get back in my mouth.
That's the story of my life.
That's what I heard, yeah.
My life right there. Yeah.
Or like, you got that killer joke at the podium and you say it and nobody laughs. You can give it a pause. You give it a big pause for people to laugh and clap and celebrate.
Yeah. And they're just like, okay.
Just shaking the seventh. Like, get off the stage. I have no experience with that, of course. But
no.
I know, right?
Of course not.
Yeah, no, I
drops a metaphor that everybody should just get, and then it turns out to be...
It's a Phillips. It's a Phillips. You know,
right?
You get
right?
it.
It's a Phillips. Yeah.
No, I mean, the thesis of my argument is that like, there's enough data. Like, if we want to talk science, here's some fucking data for you. When I'm spiritually connected, my life is really good, and I'm building. When I'm not, I'm an arrogant prick that's tearing everything down, pushing everyone away. That's the reality, drunk or not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, I've been sober and not connected spiritually, and it's a miserable time. A miserable place to be.
Yeah. Well, it's a place of like ego, right? Like, I need to know the explanation for this, and I need to know this. And, you know, if you're far away from your ego, you're more serene, right?
Seek to understand rather than be understood.
Yeah.
You know, and like, it is. It's a trip. It's a really, and I think, you know, like, I think we've optically witnessed this transformation with me. We've watched the difference between what a person with substance use disorder looks like within their own entrapment of substance use disorder, and how that manifests through ego, arrogance, and disconnect. And then we've watched a humbling that happens through really the worst, some of the worst. I mean, this has been the hardest time of my life, and I've been through some shit. You know, the difference being that I'm not coping right now with substances. I'm coping in other ways, and those ways are the ways that we're taught. You know,
and you know, Ryan, I just need to acknowledge before we go further is how amazing it is that you're sharing this whole experience with everybody, because it normalizes and shows the human side of that. You know what I mean? And not a lot of people will step up and share to the extent that you have and how eloquently you have. You know, it's very important.
There's some coping laughter right there.
It was the scariest fucking thing. And when I listened to it again, I was sick. So my stomach.
I know, I told you that. Like, I feel like that after every time something's released, but that was pretty heavy. Like, that was pretty vulnerable, and to be vulnerable is so hard. Yeah.
But vulnerability saves lives.
Yeah, exactly.
You will never know. You will never know if it was one person or if it was 1,000 people or if it was more than that. People who you may have helped in that episode and who you've helped since by being vulnerable and being open about your experience, Ryan. And it's very important. right? That I think that thank you for acknowledging that, Shannon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'd like to second that. I am working on compliments, so thank you. I appreciate that, and it's very, very meaningful to validate and recognize that. I do appreciate it.
Shannon, we have to remember who we're dealing with. We have to be careful about the ego. So now I have to find
Okay.
real quick.
So let's think of something. Knock them down a peg. Okay.
I'm trying to be in humility here, you fucks. Okay.
Yeah, but yeah.
Sorry,
All jokes aside, like, good on ya. Yeah.
It was low hanging fruit. I had to.
You know what, Shan? You're absolutely right. I am amazing. Is
Yeah.
that
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
You're right. I think they should make a statue of me. I think
Right. Yeah.
beside Rocky in Philadelphia.
It should be like in the
breaks, right?
opening of each episode is like the statue of Ryan.
Or you know what we could do is we could put I dedicate this book to Ryan in every book ever written.
That's a good idea. The big book. Get it in the big book.
Yeah. I'm actually going to be the author now. Yeah. We'll take a picture of me sitting beside a bed with some guy that's all sick, you know.
Forward.
Me and Chuck.
Like a whole North Korea thing happening.
Sounds good, yeah.
Me and Chuck with number 3, you know. You poor thing. Yeah. You know what? Why don't we just put a painting of me in every living room in the world?
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Why not?
Absolutely. Right. Yeah.
It's not fascist.
Oh.
Anyways, no.
Kim Jong.
Wait. All that aside, I honestly, Shannon, thank you. I appreciate that.
Of course, yeah.
And because it was scary, especially the remorse part. Like, oh, and but I mean, I haven't heard. How could you do that, you loser? You know, like nobody said that to me. Nobody said like, why would you do that? And so like my mind is telling me you're an idiot for exposing yourself like that.
Yeah.
And you know, everyone's figured you out now. And what happened is I got really nice things said like you just did. And I'm trying to have enough resource to embrace that. But it's not easy. It's not easy to...
It's hard to do, man.
Yeah.
It really is to accept a compliment. Like,
Yeah.
And we are like, still, with all the work you've done, with all the work I've done, which is a different path, but nonetheless. And Shannon, I can't speak for you, but I'm sure it's similar. When you are paid a compliment, is it Ryan and I cope the same way? We just kind of laugh it off, generally speaking, right?
With clients, I turn it
counter
around.
it with some sort of defect or something,
clients,
right?
I say you did the work. I just listened. That's what I usually say, and like.
Yeah.
It's not, and honestly, I'm taking away something from them by doing that. Like they've had the courage to give a compliment, which is not an easy thing to do either.
Yeah,
You're putting thought into a vulnerable moment and then expressing it and articulating to another human being. That's a scary fucking thing. And I'm just like, no, it's not important. Stop saying that. Stop. It was all you. And then my mind's going, yeah, right. Like that Jerry Seinfeld. Where he's like, you are a really good guy. Yeah, you should open up your own Pakistani restaurant. He's like, yeah, you're a good guy. That's my mind. He's like, yeah, you saved that guy.
Yeah.
Sure did. All you. Don't even need. I'm gonna put a Facebook post on this. You know, like I can't wait to share about this at the next meeting. How spiritual I am. Like, you want to hear something funny? You want to hear something funny? Okay, so Jimmy texted me the other day, and he texted me this text that said, I'm just about to post my gratitude list just to show everyone how spiritual I am.
Yeah.
Jimmy, super spiritual.
Jimmy Wednesday.
Jimmy Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still not even sure. We haven't addressed that with him. Like, I don't even know if we're allowed to say Jimmy Wednesday.
I keep telling him I'm calling him that. So that's not really it's not an option thing, you know. Like, here's what's happening, Jimmy.
Democracy.
Very totalitarianist. Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. I'm not sure. Do you know who we're talking about? When we
I don't know.
Jason,
who he's had a few episodes on the show. Jason.
Oh yes. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
a whole backstory to Jimmy Wednesday, but it's
so,
you know, and maybe we won't get into that. But that's who we're referring to.
Jimmy is funny. Jason, I call him Jimmy. It's never changing.
Yeah. No.
And he's so relatable. There's something really organic.
That's his superpower.
Yeah, like it's just like
it's 100%. Yeah.
You know, and he's like that. Like what you see is who he is. Like
I have no doubt about that.
Yeah.
There is no doubt about that. That is one of the most authentic people I've ever met, as well as relatable, right?
One thing I'll add to that, and I think it's important for Jimmy, is that guy has been there from the moment I fucking relapsed. Like he has been checking in, calling in. You know, I didn't call anybody when this happened, and the people that called me are the people that are in my life right now.
Yeah.
And I'll just leave it at that. Like, I don't see.
Yeah.
Anything bad, but you know, like, and coincidentally, all those people are in recovery. Is that a coincidence? I don't know. But that says it sure puts all my arguments about the recovery community being shitty, all to rest, because like it was Devo picking me up from jail, it was Jimmy calling me, it was Nooner calling me, it was McLeod calling, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm saying their names because whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I'm saying their names because I want to celebrate them. Because they're good friends and they're good human beings, and if I get in trouble for that, then I guess I'm gonna get in trouble for that. But
and you know what? And if there's pieces of shit in the program, you know, but it's like what they teach is principles before personalities, right? So you don't have to. And you know what? Half the time, that grumpy old guy teaches me something about myself that I needed to deal with, you know?
Those are my guys. I love the grumpy guys.
Yeah.
That's who I
Shocker.
Yeah, all right. They're like, shut up, Ryan. I'm like, I love you, man. I fucking love you.
Yeah.
You know, you've talked enough. Oh, man, that guy's right after my heart. People don't say that to me. This is Chuck. You know?
Yeah.
No problem with Chuck.
I do say it often.
Yeah.
Maybe too much.
Maybe passive aggressively make jokes about my long-winded rants. Yeah. I know how you work.
Yeah.
I'm all about the passive aggressive man. I find it's
my favorite.
Listen, you did say gratitudes in there. Of course, referencing Jimmy Wednesday. But
Jimmy Postal.
What a great way to segue into the final segment of the show. And that is the Daily Gratitudes. Daily Gratitudes are brought to you today by FAR Canada. That's the Families for Addiction Recovery. They're doing amazing work. It's absolutely free services they offer. 4 times a month, they do meetings for people in similar situations. They also offer a peer-to-peer support system that's absolutely amazing. And of course, you can get some real-time support if you contact their number during business hours. Learn more at farcanada.org. What you got for some gratitudes today, Shannon?
Gratitudes. Lately, I have been super grateful for my children. So I have 3 children. One is 9, and he's just teaches me so much about myself. One's 18, and she's going to be moving away right away. She's going to go to school in Lethbridge in September, so I'm really grateful for all the time I get to spend with her now, because life is changing in that aspect. And then my oldest one is 22, and we've just really reconnected over the last month and a half or so, and I just feel like I'm getting to know him again, and we're rebuilding a little bit of a relationship, and I just can't be happier.
That's awesome. I'm happy for you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan, what you got?
Oh yeah, shit. I was kind of I was hijacking your moment. I was in that. And I was like, yeah, that's awesome. You know what I mean? Like, I
thanks. Yeah.
See how spiritual he was?
Yeah.
Post it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Facebook
everyone like
post.
it. Everyone share it. Like it. Share it.
Yeah.
I am grateful for my ego. No, I'm just kidding. You know, to be honest with you, like, I'm fucking grateful that I made it again. I'm grateful I had another recovery in me, because I wasn't sure if I did, and I don't know if I have another one, to be honest with you. I'm grateful for the people that show up in those rooms every day. I had somebody say to me, this is awful. One of the old timers, he's a great dude. He said, first of all, he said, you're gonna make it this time. And I was like, interesting. And he said, you go to more meetings than I go to, and I go to a lot of meetings. And I was like, don't fucking tell anybody. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just kidding. But I was like, it was like, there was a validation in like how what I know of what works is a lot of work and a lot of commitment and a lot of discipline. And I'm grateful for Shan coming on the show. I'm grateful for the time you have, but not just that, because you're not just a time person. You have wisdom, you have experience, you have insight, and you have a particular insight relative to us because not just being a woman, but being a mother in recovery, somebody who got sober after children. Is that correct? Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like so you had a child that was very young when you came in, and then someone that was like 9.
So I had they were 9, 13, and 1.5 when I started.
1.5.
Yeah.
So it must be really cool to see like the 1.5, the way that they experience you compared to you know what I mean?
Oh, he was just about 1. Yeah. And that's just, I've said that to people. Like, I mean, hopefully he'll never see me drunk. You know, whereas the other 2 have.
Yeah, I got one that's seen me drunk and one that will never remember.
Yeah.
And the gift is that they won't ever have to again.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but I do. I was in the middle of trying to appreciate you coming on the show and bringing a different perspective. Also, it's really nice to like talk some recovery, like you know, like,
for sure.
And like you don't just go to meetings. It's obvious you have done the work. You put the time in. You know the unity, service, and recovery element. So I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for you coming on the show. I'm grateful for your reaching out to me, and it was out of a place of absolute altruism and love, and that was cool. And I'm really glad that you got to come on here. You know, as a result of that conversation, and
thank you.
Always want to have you back. Always. And I don't do the stuff. Chuck does that, but I'm always game.
Yeah, awesome.
Come on, I'm in 100%. And of course, my beautiful little girls and Marina and my family, and these beautiful friends that I have. So yeah, I have an amazing life, and yeah, and if it had it my way, I would have fucking ruined it. So I am grateful for whatever's out there that is looking after me. Yeah.
For myself, grateful for another great conversation. Shannon, thank you for coming back on. You're always welcome. You're one of my favorite guests for certain.
Aw, you guys are so. Thank you for those kind words. That's so amazing.
No, it's funny, and I'll speak to what Ryan said about that. You're obviously the person who does the work. It's not just about going to meetings, and you can tell when you've been on the show because I see this influx of numbers, which I appreciate numbers. Of course I do. It's my job, but that's not what it is. It's just like, who is this person without a platform that managed to drive so much traffic when she comes on? To me, that speaks to who you are and what you're doing and all of those things. And that's amazing. So thank you for that. Yes.
So maybe
I'm also grateful.
You're unique.
Thank you. Yes, you made me cry. Thank you.
Hey, if you wipe them up, it's sweat.
It's sweat, yeah.
Yeah, right?
It's so hot. It's so hot.
Yeah.
It's so hot.
That's really nice. Thank you.
That was a touching moment, I have to say.
I'm also grateful to every single person who continues to like, comment, share, listen to, talk about all the things, every interaction with the content. Every time you do these things, you're getting me a little bit closer to living my best life. My best life is to make a humble living, spreading the message. And the message is this: if you're in active addiction right now, today could be the day. Today could be the day that you start a lifelong journey. Reach out to a friend, reach out to a family member, call a detox, go to a meeting, pray, go to church. I don't care. Do whatever it is you have to do to get that journey started, because it is so much better than the alternative. And if you have a loved one who's suffering an addiction right now, you're just taking the time to listen to our episode. If you just take one more minute out of your day and text that person, let them know they're loved. Use the words.
You are loved.
That little glimmer of hope just might be the thing that brings them back. Boom.